Oh no, I can't get on Wiki Feet.
This is better for us. Hannah's trying to embarrass me by seeing my rating on Wiki Feet.
Shannon Boojum, your rating is beautiful.
Guys!
You've got beautiful feet.
Where do they have pictures of my feet? That's crazy. I am so excited, two S's, to have you here because having a sex talk with people who don't ordinarily talk about sex is an adventure and a challenge. But with you, I just feel like I can just say go.
We're gonna just dive in.
Just go. Tell us everything. Hannah, do you wanna know something? I looked up on YouTube, sex ed YouTubers. Guess who popped up first?
Was I there?
Was I number one?
Was I number one?
Number one.
That SEO.
In case y'all didn't know, and not only that, you're number one as a sex ed YouTuber, but you were on your number 2 book.
Yes.
Yes.
I am. The Hormone Diaries. I think by the time this comes out, it might be out.
We're actually doing a video on her channel that's about personality assessment. So
yes.
This one's all about sex. So we're gonna get right to that. You actually asked me this question downstairs and I'm going to volley it back to you. When was your first time that you thought to yourself, oh, I'm sexual?
Oh.
Your earliest sexual memory.
So I have a lot of really early romantic memories. I've fancied, I had my first crush when I was 4 years old on this boy that I was friends with in school. But me being a sexual being, I think that must have come way later. Because I didn't masturbate until I was much older. I internalized a lot of stuff around it not being for women and it being gross, and it was also just never presented as an option to me. I don't know when I first started getting sexual urges.
So how old were you when you started masturbating?
Well, I started to try masturbating when I was 13.
Okay, so then before then you had thought to yourself oh, I have urges.
Oh yeah, so maybe I don't know, 10 or 11, 12, that kind of age. But yeah, no, I didn't have my first orgasm until I was 20.
Oh, yep, I knew that about you.
It was almost a slow burner, but I've been doing lots of catching up.
Let's talk about 10. So 10 years old, you first are okay, there's something here that needs to be explored. When you had that thought, were you ashamed? Were you embarrassed? Were you curious? Were you disinterested? How do you remember your feelings around sex growing up?
The only thing I remember feeling any kind of shame around was masturbation, to the extent where I just didn't do it. But then I don't ever remember having urges to do it. So it wasn't I was doing it and then felt shame because I was doing it. I just was I don't feel like it. And then the shame when I got a bit older, the shame came the other way around, which was I don't like masturbation, I can't have an orgasm, there's something wrong with me. So it was that way around instead.
Yes, you didn't like doing it because you didn't feel like you could excel at it.
But also no one taught me what it was. So I remember when I was 13 years old, I fancied this boy. And
which one? Because it went year by year.
Oh yeah, year by year. This one was a forbidden love.
Oh, I live for a forbidden love.
Yeah, and we would be messaging each other on MSN. Did you? It's
yes,
AOL. Yeah.
Yes.
We'd be messaging each other every day after school, kind of being really flirty, and we basically arranged and negotiated this hookup, and we'd said that we would only do the words that we probably used were things like fingering and wanking off.
I understand though.
But it was going to be a mutual masturbation session.
Yeah.
And we arranged that, and I remember never having done that before, but we both talked about it and we were this is what we want to do. But we didn't really talk about the fact we'd never done it before or how we felt about doing it. And so I remember being in the bath and being I wonder what it would be like for him. So I put my fingers up my vagina and wasn't pleasurable at all because I wasn't aroused. It was more of a discovery expedition. And I just remember it being squishy and wet and warm, and then just being I don't get it.
How fascinating is that? Because your earliest thoughts of sexuality were around is this going to be comfortable for the other person?
Yeah.
So you didn't know you had a clitoris or what the clitoris was at that time.
No, I don't think
you
I
were
did.
never taught about masturbation. So walk me through your sex education or lack thereof.
Like by the time I was like 14, 15, my mum was like, so Hannah, you must be masturbating now. And I was like, no, Mum. Because I'd already internalized all this stuff, even though my mum was clearly like chill about it. But that was the first time I remember her like saying anything. Well, I remember like going into the bathroom and my mum was in the bath and me being like, so I think me and partner are thinking about having sex. Do you have any advice for me? And just being like, Mum, Dad, what is your advice? But like, I don't even think they knew what to say. They were like, oh my God, our 15-year-old daughter is asking us for sex advice. So they were just like, just communicate and like make sure you're ready.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and not
sweet.
Sex permission, sex advice.
Yeah, and I remember like a couple days after me and that partner had sex for the first time, my mum like turns to me in the kitchen. She's like, so have you lost your V-card now? And I was like, Mom, how did you know?
Now you're being shy about it.
Yeah. But school was, this is a period, this is how you don't get pregnant, this is how you don't get an STI, let's put a condom on a thing.
So then you went through that. You didn't get obviously the information that you needed to for yourself, for what you wanted to do at the time. When did you start your relationship with true sex education?
YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, YouTube when I was maybe like 18, 19 years old. But before that, I'd already knew that what I was learning wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So I remember being in sixth form and you're about like 17 years old and we had like an RE lesson because I went to a Catholic college and we were learning about healthy relationships, which was probably just something along the lines of like, respect each other's boundaries and no means no.
Yeah.
And then I raised my hand and I'm like, are you going to teach us about like contraception and abortion and things like this and condoms? And the teacher was like, no, we can't teach you that or talk about it because it's against the Catholic Church. And I just remember being like, we're all 17 years old, we're all having sex. Like,
and were you having sex that time?
I was, but I realized afterwards that like obviously not everyone is having sex at 17, but I was angry and yelled at my teacher about it. Nothing changed.
So you were having sex at 17, but you didn't orgasm until 20.
Yeah, and then didn't have my first orgasm with another person until like 21, 22. Yeah. So I was having a lot of pleasurable sex. This is the thing, like I was enjoying it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get like a chronological timeline here.
Oh yeah, we've been all over the place.
So at 10, you had your first sexual thought. At 13, you tried masturbating, didn't work out for you.
No.
When did you start, and then you had this consensual sexual experience with this guy that was just mutual masturbation.
Yeah.
When did you start having like a truly active sex life and how was your first years of having sex?
Ooh, so probably like 15, 16. So I had penetrative penis and vagina sex for the first time when I was 16. But before that, again, there was a lot more mutual masturbation with like boyfriends and flings and stuff. And yeah, I think from like 16 onwards, I was like having regular sex with partners. I think it was like hit and miss. Cause like
how was your first time?
my first time was great.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Do you know the stat is 1 out of every 5 people have a positive first time?
Oh.
And
so like it wasn't like obviously the best sex ever.
Right.
But I'd never had the expectation.
How shitty would that be if your first time like blew everything out the water and everything else after that? Yes. And then that was like your consistent sexual partner until that relationship ended.
Yeah, so that relationship ended over that summer.
I actually want to talk to you about that because there are a lot of people who are anorgasmic and or haven't figured out what their route to orgasm is yet. And so for 3 years, I actually experienced the same thing. I did not have an orgasm with a partner probably until 19 or so. But I didn't have pleasurable sex. So I didn't actually enjoy the sex I was having.
So with that guy, I'm pretty sure I squirted, but I didn't know what that was. And I've never been able to do it since. And I'm just like clueless. Like when I was like 15 years old, I was squirting left, right, and center.
Didn't you squirt during masturbation by yourself?
No.
because we had this conversation with Yumi and Lindsay, a little pop-up right now. I feel like that, I could be totally wrong, but like you were like a semi-squirter.
But I think it was because of this time when I was 15.
Oh.
So like, and this would be, so like now I'm like very much like mostly about the clitoris. But then even with him, still no clue about the clit, even at like 15, 16. But the finger banging was just good. It was just good. But I could never feel it. There was never like that, there was never that orgasm feeling of like tension and release.
Yes.
Just, he would just go, oh, it's happened. And because like some water had just like gushed out of me, but I could never feel it when it happened.
So you felt positive about your sex life even though you weren't having orgasms.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I think at the beginning, I was like, this is great. No worries. And then it wasn't until like maybe the last few years of it that I started to just get frustrated with myself. I was like, why aren't I having orgasms? But I think it was because I was like only having penetration.
Yeah.
And then I got a bit older and I was like, okay, I know the clitoris is a thing now. And so I started to try and experiment with that, and I just couldn't get into it. It wasn't feeling good. And I think it was because I was going into it being like, I'm gonna have an orgasm. Like, I'm gonna try and make myself come. Yeah, and then when it eventually did happen, I just remember like, I think I was just at home alone and I was bored. And I was just like, I'm gonna watch some porn.
Yeah. So your book is coming out. It's called The Hormone Diaries. What was your journey with birth control? Did you go on it at 16 years old when you started having penetrative sex?
I went on it when I was 17. So it was like the boyfriend after.
Rolling the dice for a year, okay.
Well, condoms. But the thing is that I had 2 experiences of condoms breaking, and then I was like, okay, let's go on the pill.
Yeah.
Did that, was on the pill for 7 years. And then I was just like, do you know what? I want to give my body a break from this. So I came off it and then made a whole series just like documenting changes to my body. Also during that 7 years, I hadn't had a period. So I was just like, okay, bring it on. I'm gonna have a period again. Let's see what this is like.
So what were you were using like a 28-day pill cycle where you just consistently, you never gave yourself?
It was the progestin only pill, which is the mini pill basically. So you don't take a break on it at all. And one of the common side effects of it is that it either reduces or like completely gets rid of your period. And I was so grateful. I remember being like, this is a dream. But then documented like my first period coming back and like everything that was happening to my body. And then also just learning about different forms of contraception. And basically I think I was off the pill for like a year, and then I just had to go back on contraception. I ended up getting the Marina coil purely because my like physical PMS, like my tits hurt so much for like 2 solid weeks before my period would start.
Which is like 30% of your life.
I couldn't hug people.
Yeah.
Like, and also my boobs are massive. So like at the end of the day, I would be taking my bra off and I would have to like hold my hand under my boob to catch my boob as it would fall out of the bra, because that thud, I'd be like in so much pain.
That was the hottest story ever.
My sweaty tit just thudding.
What are 3 things that you wish you told yourself about sex? Because now you're a sex expert, you dedicated your life to educating others. What are 3 things that you'd go back in time to 16-year-old Hannah who asked her mom for some sex advice? What would you say?
I would teach myself about the clitoris. I'd be like, that thing.
And how do you recommend people teach their daughters or themselves about the clitoris?
Oh, okay, so like if you're teaching someone else, just like do a basic anatomy lesson. You could just be like, here's the vulva, let's name the different parts.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Clitoris, and they'll be like, what's that? And you're like, well, let me tell you. So yeah, I think I just needed to know basic anatomy. And then I think on a personal level, how you learn that is like spreading your legs in front of a mirror and having like a look around. I swear every time I do that, and I still do it quite regularly as an adult, every time I learn something new.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, oh, there's that. I didn't, oh, it's that bit's that color if I like pull it in. And that's why I'm like, oh, interesting.
What's one pro tip you can give us? One Hannah Witton exclusive pro tip that you can share with the people.
We kind of were talking about this before because I spotted some sex toys in this room. And that would be like, if you have a penis, or if your partner has a penis, like introduce some toys for that. Because I feel like there's a big stigma around penis toys, but you know, there's no harm in like expanding your sexual repertoire. If you're not into it, you're not into it, that's fine. But I think for a lot of people, they don't even know it's an option.
Mm-hmm. And now you do know it's an option.
Yeah.
And you also need to know about Hannah's new book. I lived for your first book.
Oh, thank you.
I really did. And it was one of those things, I think I told you.
You sent me like this essay either like in text or an email, and I was like, oh my God, Shannon.
I love the fact that you shared different perspectives. You had your own personal experience in there. Like you had fun facts, you had experts write on experts, and you gave your expertise afterwards. It was just really awesome and layered.
Thank you.
And I can't think of somebody who would be better to write the Hormone Diaries. That question of like choose your birth control is so daunting and overwhelming. And so as a book for somebody who is maybe on the stage of starting something new, coming off something old, or just like curious as fuck, that's where you want to go.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome. You're so good.
Aww.
You're so good. I'm gonna give you a hug.
Only for the cameras.
Only because your love language is physical touch.
It really is. That's why I started stroking your back.